Welcome back. We all read To Kill a Mockingbird. We had to in school, and thankfully so, because it was a delightful book. By now, you probably heard the sequel is about to be published by HarperCollins tomorrow. Now, let's dwell on To Kill a Mockingbird first. Remember Atticus Finch, the father? He was so almost biblically pure hero. Here he is, played by Gregory Peck in the movie. Listen to this.
The evidence. I am confident that you gentlemen will review without passion the evidence that you have heard, come to a decision, and restore this man to his family. In the name of God, do your duty.
There he is defending
a
a wrongly accused black man, a great lawyer, a great father. Everything about him is beautiful in that book. The sequel, let's put that up on the screen, please. Go Set a Watchman. The initial reviews are coming in, and spoiler alert, Atticus Finch is something of a bigot. And that has turned a lot of people off so far. But then again, very few of us have actually read the book. Let's take a look, please, at Harper Lee, the author. She wrote this book a long time ago, but she actually wrote it here in New York. She's something of a mysterious figure. She is alive, though, lives in Alabama. All right, let's bring in our experts for reaction to the new book. We have with us English professor Lenny Cassuto from Fordham. Nice to see you, sir. Also, Professor Rebecca Connor from Hunter College. Welcome to you both.
Thank you for being here. So let's first talk about the new book, Go Set a Watchman. This is a book that was kind of shrouded in controversy. I was reading last night, somebody was saying that we're not even sure if she really wanted this book released. And now it stands to dispel all the things that we thought we knew about some of the most beloved characters in literature today. What is your take on this?
Well, I think it's important to remember that this was a first draft of To Kill a Mockingbird. We don't actually know whether she intended this book to be published. We know now that she did, but when it was written, it was very clearly an early version of the book that we now know and love. So it's very, very important, I think, to keep it in that perspective. I hope very much that it will not obliterate To Kill a Mockingbird. I think it will certainly affect the response to Kill a Mockingbird going forward. Professor,
what do you think?
It's interesting to learn that To Kill a Mockingbird was in fact a prequel. But if we look at Atticus Finch, Atticus Finch was a kind of moral superhero in in To Kill a Mockingbird, the first book, which was written second. But he always had warts. In the cosmology of To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus's principled nonviolence actually isn't enough to protect his own children. And so I don't think he's meant to be perfect. And if we see him as something less than perfect in a 20-year flash forward, I think that that's just people being human.
Can we show Harper Lee for a moment? It is interesting, now with the book coming out, I've been reading profiles of her. She granted her last interview something like 50 years ago, I think, to a newspaper, although she's spoken to an author here and there. Why did she never write another book? I heard that perhaps her father told her there's only one place to go after a super hit like this, and that's down, which I was really taken aback by, Professor.
Well, I think any of us who know writers know that, and I'm sure we all do, know that sometimes the most devastating response is tremendous success. And whether or not her father said that to her, none of us can possibly prove, but I think I can only imagine the pressure she felt. She's 34 years old. She publishes one book. It wins the Pulitzer Prize. How can she possibly match that? And how can people possibly respond to her with generosity after that?
But she was able to live quite well off of the publication of this one book. In fact, she had an apartment in this neighborhood up until a few years ago. Did you know that, Professor?
40 million copies will do that.
Yeah, right.
And a film, right, and a blockbuster film.
All right, and nobody really feels that she was somehow manipulated or hoodwinked into publication. There's been some speculation about that. Any?
Well, she's quite sick now, isn't she?
Harper Lee is an old woman who, even when she was younger and healthier, did not seek the spotlight, did not want it to be about her. In 1993, she wrote a foreword, if you want to call it that, to a reissue of To Kill a Mockingbird, in which she essentially said, introductions are useless. I'm not writing one. The book speaks for itself. It still speaks for itself, so let it. And that is something she's tried to live by those words her whole life.
What I find so interesting about this is what we were touching on earlier, is the fact that, especially in society today, people name their kid Atticus.
Yes.
People hold him in such high regard. And to think that future generations, when they read this book for the first time, aren't going to walk away with the same opinion that perhaps we did.
Yeah, look at what Mia Farrow said about this. I think we have her tweet. Let's go ahead and put it on the screen. She was devastated to hear this Atticus Finch, a racist? Oh, Miss Lee, how could you? In all of fiction, few are as respected and loved. She's devastated already, although I have heard others say, you know what, it's a more he's more human, he's nuanced, he's more of the era, and it might even be a better read.
Do you think it ruins the image? Do you think from now on it won't be seen as the classic that it is?
I hope very much that that will not happen. I hope that people will approach Go Set a Watchman with compassion and generosity and understand it in context, as we're discussing, that it is it was a first draft, that this is that the Atticus Finch in Go Set a Watchman is not forgive me, is not the Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird is not the evolved version of this earlier character. He's a different version, a completely reconceived version. So we can either think of them as two completely separate characters in separate novels.
Have you read the book yet?
I've read the first chapter, which is the only chapter
right.
that's
The
been
first chapter
published.
is all that's available.
You
Yes,
called
it's all-
Atticus a moral superhero, and I have heard again that he's not a moral superhero. They don't even exist. So this is a more nuanced, human, and perhaps more interesting character.
Even in Mockingbird, Atticus is an imperfect figure. By the standards that the book is setting up for what is right, Atticus has a paternalistic air towards the Confederate widow next door, that he's willing to let her spew racist hatred. He opposes the murderous, low-born whites who lie about the rape case that's at the center of the book, but he lets the structural racism that's around him persist. But Atticus is human.
But he couldn't stop that. He didn't have the power to stop that.
Atticus is human. Michael Jordan retired from basketball twice, came back as a distinctly mortal figure, and we still remember the immortal heroics. I don't think that this is going to hurt.
Let's put the statement, please, from HarperCollins up on the board. Let's see what they have to say about the initial controversy here.
They say the question of Atticus's racism is one of the most important and critical
elements in this
of this
novel,
novel.
and it should be considered in the context of the book's broader moral themes. Okay, by the way, if you don't want to read it, I suggest you listen to it. The book, the audio version, apparently is read by Reese Witherspoon. Let's hear a clip, please.
Henry picked up her heavy suitcase, and they walked back toward the car. She wondered how she would behave when her time came to hurt, day in and day out. Hardly like Atticus. If you asked him how he was feeling, he would tell you. But he never complained. His disposition remained the same. So in order to find out how he was feeling...
All right. A nice, soothing voice.
She does, with a little bit of Southern thing, just like To Kill a Mockingbird, which I'm
Yep.
listening to right now. Sissy Spacek reads that one. All right,
Oh,
professors, what do you got going for the summer? You're off, aren't you, right? Do you have a lot of work to do, or are you just chilling, Professor?
I do administrative work, so I am still working.
Professors work all the time.
Publish or perish, I hear, right? Is that still the mandate?
It's not just that. Teaching is a lot of work, and it takes a lot more hours than just the time we spend in the classroom.
Is this prescribed reading?
Mockingbird or Watchman?
No, Go Set a Watchman.
It's hard to say without having read it, but I think that there's a lot of people are worried right now about something that maybe they should not be worried about. Scout is the moral center of both books, and it's clear that Scout is very much on the right side of justice.
Lenny Cassuto from Fordham, English professor, and Rebecca Connor from Hunter. Well, thank you both.
Thank
really
you.
Enjoyed it. Okay. All right.